All right. As everybody's slowly coming in, just a heads up, we are recording this session. So if at any point you have to leave, you've got class, feel free to excuse yourself, and we will be loading this recording up onto our YouTube channel probably by the end of this week. So don't panic if you can't stay the whole time. We totally understand, but we're looking forward to having everybody here. So I'm just going to finish admitting more people in, and then we will get started here in a second. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you joining us today. We're excited to talk about this topic. We're hoping to share some tips and some tricks and some resources that we've uncovered as we've gone through this dual credit journey. And but before we get started, I wanted to just give a quick intro to everybody who is presenting with me today. So we have my colleague Mike Spalchero is joining us today. He is the one who actually coordinated the whole workshop, so we really appreciate him today. He is our academic engagement specialist here at the Center for Cybersecurity at Purdue University Northwest. He is a former middle school teacher, a veteran, and he is helping to lead the credit transfer agreement project. So we have Mike joining us. We also have two of our professionals from Purdue Northwest Concurrent Enrollment Office. We have Katie Bowers here today. Katie is the coordinator of academics and accreditation in our Concurrent Enrollment Office, and her colleague is Rachel Myers, who is also joining us. Rachel is the coordinator of students and school partnerships. Both Katie and Rachel have an extensive background in concurrent enrollment. They have worked with teachers and administrators in our local and area high schools, and they have helped to develop many enrollment agreements. I don't know how many you guys, if you've ever kept track, but they have done a lot. So they are just experts with these courses with the K12 schools, generating MOUs, initiating teacher credentialing. I know I'm missing things. There's a ton of stuff, but we are excited to have both Katie and Rachel joining us today to share their knowledge with us. And I am Amber Schuler. I am the outreach specialist for the Center for Cybersecurity at Purdue Northwest. I work on a lot of different grants as well. So does Mike. So you might see us at a variety of meetings. I am also a former teacher and have been in higher ed for well over a decade now. I am the point of contact for these credit transfer agreement tasks that we're going to be talking about today. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I went ahead and updated my username in Zoom, and I added my email address on it. If you would like to add your email address as well, that way I can follow up with anybody if there's any questions that happen to pop up in chat and we don't have an answer right now. So just a little housekeeping there. And then I would be remiss not to introduce Dr. Michael Tu, who unfortunately is in a meeting in DC, so I don't think he's able to join us today, but he is our project PI. He is overseeing the credit transfer agreement project funded by this grant, which is through the Careers Preparation National Center, CPNC, for the rest of us who like acronyms. He has been the lead on multiple projects to develop curriculum. He's developed educational games, resources, lots of stuff for our K12 teachers of cybersecurity. So that is us in a nutshell. So why are you here? Why have we been tasked with this credit transfer agreement? Why is this so important? And the reason being is that we've been getting a lot of inquiries, maybe from our deans, our department chairs. We've been hearing it from state and local governments. Federal government as well is really pushing everybody to kind of build these credit transfer agreements in a hope to be recruiting students and to help fill these jobs that we currently have, that we have the abundance of cybersecurity jobs, but not enough trained, skilled employees to fill those roles. So they're thinking we need to reach back further into the K12 pipeline and start developing these cyber skills in students in high school. And we've even been talking about even going back into the middle school as well. So really important. We're getting a lot of demand or a lot of requests to develop these credit transfer agreements. And if you guys want to throw in chat, if you're hearing this as well from your departments, from your leadership at your universities, just kind of curious how much you guys are being tapped for this. But obviously, as this grant task, this is something that we've taken on, and we're really championing this this task to really begin developing these credit transfer agreements specifically for cybersecurity. And some of the things that we can offer because of the grant is that we can offer a lot of support, which you typically may not have at your university. And as we talk through the credit transfer agreement process with Katie and Rachel, they're really going to break everything down for us. But not everybody has a dual credit or a dual enrollment office on their campus that can help guide you through all of these different steps to finally having a formal contract at the end with your high school. So with this grant, we are kind of your support team, so to speak. So if you're doing this all on your own, know that you've got a group of colleagues here who can at least try and troubleshoot as much as possible and tap into our expertise, Katie and Rachel specifically, with this dual credit development. And the nice thing for the people who are participating today, if by participating in this workshop, or if you joined us in our October workshop, you have the opportunity to utilize these resources through us. We have some different resources that Mike will be talking about next. But another nice perk is by developing a new cybersecurity credit transfer agreement, you could qualify for a nice $1,000 stipend through our grant program. And some of the schools that have already jumped on board with developing their new credit transfer agreement transfer agreement have said that they're planning to use that to maybe send their teacher to a workshop this summer so that they can be credentialed to teach their cybersecurity course in the fall. So just some ideas about ways that people are going to be using those funds. And then this is when I'm going to turn it over to Mike and he'll let him talk about what we can offer.
Hi, so my name is Mike, and I have been working on this project for a little bit now. Some of you probably received some emails from me at least once a semester, maybe twice a semester. So some of the things that we have to offer are mentoring, we have curriculum development, and we have lab development, as well as NDG lab hosting. So for those of you who are familiar with these terms, you know that it could be difficult to set up some of these things on your own, especially if you don't have the budget. We are able to do some limited NDG lab hosting and help you set up a lab of your own, as well as provide you with some curriculum and, of course, mentoring either with our faculty members here or through people who can help you with developing your CTA. So that remember that creating a credit transfer agreement takes time and requires an ongoing commitment. So if it's taking you longer than you would normally expect, don't worry about it. These things do take time. It has to reach a lot of people's desks, and because of that, you know, we can get kind of it seems like we're getting bogged down. So it's nothing to really get too concerned about. Reach out to us, and we will be able to provide you with some kind of help. All right. Next slide.
All right, this is me. Sorry, I'm trying to click mute. I'm really stinking at it today. Okay. So for those of you who are interested in developing a cybersecurity credit transfer agreement, you already know that it's something on your radar. Maybe your dean or your department chair has already told you that this is something that needs to be done. And that's why you're coming to our workshop today, to find out the nitty-gritty about getting started with that. So if you're already committed and ready to deep dive in, and you want to have access to the resources, and maybe you're even even want to try and claim one of those $1,000 stipends, first step that you need to do is send me an email and let me know that you're interested in developing your cybersecurity credit transfer agreement. In your email, please include who your point of contact is going to be. If you've got a whole team of faculty and staff helping you, please include them as well. I will use that information to load into our database, and then that way I can outreach to the entire team for any updates about your credit transfer agreement. Once you send me that email, I will send a confirmation email back, and I will send you a copy of our credit transfer agreement development worksheet, which is a really nice fillable PDF, and it will walk you through step by step how to develop your credit transfer agreement. This is great if you don't have a concurrent enrollment office on campus who already has this process in place. So for those schools that are kind of doing this all on their own, this worksheet will be super helpful for you. And it also helps to make certain that you're ticking all those boxes, that you're meeting with all the people that you need to be meeting with. And there's a little bit of flexibility with it as well. So as you'll learn through with Katie and Rachel today, there's a lot of different tasks that can kind of be changed out, like they don't have to be in a set order. So maybe you want to develop your curriculum a bit before you contact your high school teacher, or maybe you wanted to contact the high school teacher first and develop the curriculum together. So there's a little bit of flexibility with some of those tasks. Once you have your completed official dual credit concurrent enrollment agreement, I will need you to send me a copy of that MOU or official contract. If you're shooting for this stipend, you need to get it to me by August 1st. And also sending in with that MOU or that official contract, please send the completed the CTA development worksheet. That's more helpful for us to figure out, to see like where were some of the stumbling blocks along the way, or what tasks took a lot longer than maybe you had anticipated. And that's good feedback for us to kind of see how your process went. So those two items, send those to me then at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and let Mike go ahead and get started, kind of talking about what credit transfer agreements are, and Katie and Rachel will take it from there.
I'm having problems with the mute as well. So, as I was saying, a credit transfer agreement is also known as credit transfer policy, or you might know this as an articulation agreement. So this is an agreement between two schools that helps to facilitate the transfer of credits earned by a student from one school to another. And these are designed to create more of a smooth transition for students who want to transfer from one school or one college or university or other educational program to another without losing any credits they already have.
Right. And I was ready with my mute button. So as Amber mentioned, I'm Katie Bowers. I'm the coordinator of academics and accreditation, and with me is Rachel Myers, our coordinator of students and school partnerships. We were just chatting. If you saw us talking, we loved seeing people say hi in the comments and say where they were from. So feel free to continue to do that. Not working with you all regularly, it's great to see kind of where you're coming from and what you are, what your role is. So feel free to continue to do that. We enjoy that very much. So this is a little bit of all the different pieces that we're going to talk about. And as Amber and Michael have both mentioned, these things are not linear. These could be different pieces you're working on simultaneously. It could be pieces that are already done. So one of the pieces in developing that transfer agreement is making sure you have a course that you are offering that aligns with a course that you're offering at the university and in the high school. This could be a course that already exists, so that you can check that box off right away. It could be a course that doesn't exist, but you need to create that curriculum. If it doesn't already exist, as Amber mentioned, you might want to identify what schools you're working with and then identify those teachers who can teach it and then create the curriculum together. It could be that they're already offering a comparable course and they have a base curriculum and you can work off of that. So one of those things we'll talk about is just that course development, determining what schools you're working with and why, making sure that there's a good fit and making sure that you have, again, the teachers who can teach it. That's a big piece of that research of the schools you're going to be working with. Contacting your school administration, as Amber mentioned, we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth, but there may already be existing relationships. So make sure that you are looking at your institution and figuring out who might already be doing some of this work. Meeting with the school, both the administration and the teachers there, to really negotiate, what the course is going to look like, what that agreement looks like, what the expectations are, and then finally implementing that program. So a lot of these things can be happening simultaneously. Some of the things may be done already, but this is kind of the broad scope of what this is going to look like for you, all those different pieces. So as I mentioned already, creating the curriculum, this one is a little bit more, I guess I would say, ambiguous perhaps, because again, it could be that you already have a curriculum created. It could be that you know that you need to create a curriculum, in which case there might be resources out there for you that there will be some discussion about, I believe. So really, you need to make sure that you just know what the course is you want to offer. If it's already an existing course, I will tell you from my experience working with high school instructors, they sometimes do really appreciate you coming and saying, this is what the course looks like, because it makes their job that much easier. So making sure you know, though, exactly what those course expectations are going to be. I think Amber had sort of alluded to this earlier, but you may already be a NACEP accredited institution, in which case there are specific things that come along with offering these courses as credit in the high school. So as you're developing that course, thinking about things like learning objectives, making sure those are well defined and something that can be replicated in a high school setting. Thinking about key assessments, because whatever those key assessments might be, if it's a midterm, a final, a project, that's going to need to match what they're able to do in the high school as well. But also thinking a little bit about the time constraints that exist at universities that don't always necessarily exist in the high school. I will say this is one of the biggest pushbacks we get sometimes from faculty at the university level is, well, it's a college class, how could they possibly cover this? Forgetting that in high school, sometimes they see those kids 5 days a week, whereas at the university level, we might see them twice a week. So be thinking about those things. What might seem insurmountable on face value that wouldn't work at college, they can make work because they see them so much more. So be thinking about all of those pieces as you're looking at your curriculum. And in my experience, don't rule anything out until you start having those actual one-on-one conversations, both with the teachers who might be offering the course and the administration there as well. Some partnerships, as you're looking at that curriculum, might even include bringing students to campus. So again, some of those obstacles that you might see like at face value when you're looking at that curriculum don't actually exist there once you get into those conversations. So again, don't rule anything out till you get to that part in your process. The very first thing when I hear from a high school teacher or a high school that wants to offer a course is, are you already offering that course? And if so, can we see the curriculum? So again, when you start making those connections with the schools and you're like, this is the course we want to offer, find out if they already offer something comparable, because again, you can work off of that instead of making them implement an entirely new curriculum. And again, I'll just mention, as somebody who is at a NACEP accredited institution, be keeping that in the back of your mind, because there might already be staff on your campus who are doing this work who can help make this process that much easier. So thinking about both what you want to see from that course in terms of objectives and key assessments, the credit value of the course, all of those pieces. But again, also thinking about when you start having those conversations with the high school, what are their needs? What must students meet for their graduation requirements? Because they might look a little bit different than they do at the university level. So this one is relatively easy. Again, if you already know what the course is, it's just thinking about the conversations you'll have down the road.
All right. Again, now we're going to talk about how to research and identify those potential schools. So I feel like I need to go back. Again, my name's Rachel, and you saw what our titles were, but Katie and I kind of joke around that we're kind of a package deal when it comes to concurrent enrollment. We know that most universities don't have an office made up of our duties. So you're hearing Katie talk, you're hearing she does all of the academics accreditation part. I joke around with her. I get to do all the fun stuff. I get to do all the outreach, researching what schools might want to partner with Purdue Northwest. What can we bring them on campus for field trips? Those sorts of things. So I do a lot of research. When I hear from Katie about maybe some faculty want to learn more about concurrent enrollment, then again, and it doesn't matter what comes first, the chicken or the egg sort of thing. what schools are in the area. I just start researching these schools, emailing, calling, all that good stuff. I research to see like what missions align with ours, all that good stuff. So that's where you definitely want to research and identify the potential schools that align with your institution's mission and programs. All right. And then contacting the schools. Obviously, I am not, I love getting out of the office and going into the schools and doing those one-on-one meetings. I bring Katie with me a lot so that she can talk about the academic side. Then once you do that, again, it's email, calling, maybe we will have meeting. We have a lot of informational meetings to discuss because a lot of times people think they know about concurrent enrollment and what it all entails. But when they hear us talk and explain a little bit more, they hear, oh, that they realize they were thinking it was AP. They didn't know the difference. So definitely we have guidance counselor workshops where we bring the counselors in and they can hear. We have administrative workshops where principals can hear. So definitely don't be afraid to either, do your research, contact those schools any way you know how. And also when you're researching those schools, you've heard Katie talk a lot about NACEP, knowing if your institution is NACEP accredited. Also, you should find out if your state is also an accredited state chapter, has a state chapter of NACEP. Like Indiana, I see there's some people from Indiana in this chat here. Tomorrow, pretty much everyone in the state of Indiana, for example, is going to be getting an email saying, hey, we're relaunching our state chapter of NCEP. And it's just, again, to learn best practices, learn about maybe some conferences, professional development things. So definitely find out if your state has a state chapter of NACEP as well.
And I did just share the NACEP link in the chat. So you can go there and you can look to see if you're already a NACEP accredited institution. You may not know, in working in the kind of university, but not with concurrent enrollment, you may already be an accredited institution, which means there are certainly people like us doing a lot of this work for you. So I did just share that link. You can go there and learn a lot more just about concurrent enrollment and our national organization. All right, so I kind of hinted at this again when I was talking earlier about curriculum, but each K-12 school you're working with might have its very own specific requirements and criteria for the courses they offer. For example, in Indiana, there's actually 3 different types of high school diplomas, or is it 4 now, that students can earn, and dual credit plays a part in 2 of those 4. So being aware of what those high school graduation requirements are is going to help you, just so you know what their expectations are and what they're going to need from you. Think about what those policies are in terms of academics. Also think about what they are in terms of admission to your institution to get that credit. So for example, if your institution has an admission requirement of 3.0, that could be limiting to those high school students who can take those courses. Conversely, if your admissions requirement is 2.0, but that school wants it to be a 3.0, think about again what their policies are going to be in line. We have that conversation a lot. What our admissions requirement is not necessarily as high as what the schools want for the students who take these courses. So be aware that students may say, no, we want our students to be a little stronger students. We want them to have that 3.0 GPA to take college courses. So think about those types of things. Again, think about what their expectations are from the course. Some of this has to do with the partnership itself and what they expect in terms of support and collegiality between their instructors and you as faculty members. It also could be what are their expectations of your support for students? What kind of advising are their students going to get? And that's where kind of having those conversations internally before you go out about what you're capable of taking on or who you need to partner with at your institution are going to be extremely valuable. For example, with our program, Rachel is the student's academic advisor. So for those high school students, that's who she goes to. If you don't have an office like that, it might mean working with your advising center and figuring out who could be a point of contact as an advisor or as an admissions person who helps support your work. And then also be thinking about what all those documents are that they're going to need. So as part of this work with Amber and Michael, we know there's certain things you have to submit, but your institution might require more. So for example, for our partnerships, we require both an MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding with the entire school corporation, but then also individual articulation agreements for every course. And if those aren't already developed, ours go through a legal process to be reviewed before we can have them signed off on because our chancellor signs them. So again, just a little bit of legwork to making sure you know both what those K-12 institutions are looking for, and then what your institution is looking for. And I will say, just from experience, most of our K-12 institutions are cool with our expectations. They do, they fill out the documents, but some want more, just depending on the superintendent or the leadership there. So again, think about all those different pieces. It sounds overwhelming. It's not, but just make sure you do your research on what are those expectations before you get too far down the path in developing curriculum that might be difficult to offer. And again, I've talked about this a few times, just really making sure that whatever the curriculum of your courses aligns to whatever those requirements are. So if it's an existing course on your course catalog that has to have X, Y, and Z, you need to communicate that to the schools because they might be expecting A, B, and C. So you need to make sure when you are looking at that curriculum that it meets all of your standards as an institution, but also the K-12 that you're partnering with. And this is where that transferability comes in, right? So that way the students aren't taking a course that, again, doesn't help towards their diploma and wouldn't help towards a diploma at your institution either. We want it to be a win-win for everybody, and that's where those conversations are so important. And I will also say again, in working with high school instructors, they are great. They are very hardworking. They are experts in pedagogy. That's what they went to school for. So they are wonderful in terms of education and being educators. So as long as it's not something that's completely out of the realm of possibility, they're probably going to do a great job teaching that coursework. And I will tell you what I hear from our faculty who observe the high school instructor teaching our courses is that they frequently come back to me and say, I learned something that I want to do in my classroom. Because on the university side, we are experts in our content, but we didn't go get those teaching licenses necessarily. So sometimes these high school instructors have a lot that they can even add for your courses. And this is where those conversations again about, is it a lab that we can only host on campus? Maybe those students can come to campus. As Rachel mentioned, she gets to organize those types of field trips all the time and the schools love it. And it can honestly be a great recruitment tool as well. So be thinking about those types of things as you're aligning that curriculum is what are you offering? How does it align with what you need? And again, the K-12, what they need.
I'm going to say one thing just to add on to when I bring those kids onto campus for what we call a concurrent enrollment day on campus, we do sit them in those undergrad classes. We split them up and we come back together. And I said, what did you guys learn about sitting in that undergrad class? What's the difference between your high school class and this class here at PNW? And the number one thing they always say is they can just get up and leave whenever they want. But the number two thing they always say is that one kid in particular says, this college kids are actually human. I realize now I can do this. And this professor was so cool. I know now I want to come here. So as she said, it could be a recruiting tool. It definitely can be.
Mm-hmm. And this is such an amazing area for high school students to be learning about, that any way you can pique their interest and get them excited about it now is only going to not only help with your institution's goals, but also just with the goals of this field and this profession. It's obviously way too important to not get these students excited about this. So whatever those things are you can do to add to it, whether it be coming in and doing a guest lecture with that high school. We have our faculty do that all the time, and the students. And again, the schools love it because it shows that commitment. It's not a one-way partnership where they're offering a course for us. It's really that kind of back and forth in terms of working together.
I'm going to add one more thing. I'm so sorry. Another thing, when our concurrent enrollment kids are admitted and registered for a course, they're considered PNW students, which means they get invited to these on-campus clubs. They can take a part. And so if there is a cybersecurity club, these kids are invited at, and talk about such a good way to start building those relationships earlier than what you were expecting. Okay, I'm done now. I promise.
I think I've already covered a lot of this in my other slides, but again, as you're arranging those meetings with those partner schools, honestly, I'll speak for Rachel, but there's a lot of just kind of cold calling, figuring out who that either college advisor is at that high school, or is it best to go through the superintendent? Is it reaching out to a secretary and just saying, are you interested? Figuring out the best way to meet with them. And as Rachel mentioned, sometimes in person is just the best way to go to really demonstrate the commitment to that relationship. Although Zoom is always a great second if you can't, do it in person. Be prepared for there to be a little bit of a conversation about it. Some schools are, they don't like that kind of, I'll say, heavy-handed approach where you come in and say, here's the curriculum and here's the book and this is how it has to be taught. Because again, they have very qualified people teaching. So just thinking about how are you navigating those conversations, and what are your non-negotiables when you go in, but where might there be room for a conversation about exploring the potentials there. And again, we have rarely, if ever, had a bad interaction with a superintendent or a teacher or a principal. Generally, concurrent enrollment is growing rapid fire across the country right now. And so most people are very open to exploring these opportunities. Just really when it comes to the curriculum, that's where the biggest conversations are going to be.
And now it gets to be Mike's turn.
Sorry. Again, navigating the mute button. So next is going to be the legal review and documentation. So this is really towards the end, but you really want to make sure that you're keeping this in the back of your mind. You're going to have administration working with you to kind of facilitate these agreements. So once both parties agree on the terms of the CTA, make sure that you have it reviewed by legal counsel to ensure compliance with any kind of laws or regulations in your state, county, school district, everything in between. So you need to make sure that you prepare the necessary documentation, including the agreement itself and any supporting materials. Make sure that you include your deans, chancellor, principals, and other administrators. And you want to consult legal experts. Your school probably has a legal counsel office. You want to draft the agreement document that outlines the terms, responsibilities, and expectations of both parties, and ensure that you include details such as course descriptions, the credit transfer process, student eligibility criteria, and termination clauses if you feel that that's something that you're going to need. And then finally, you are going to want to sign the agreement. So once all parties are satisfied with the terms and conditions, officially sign the credit transfer agreement. Make sure that your stakeholders, such as the school administrators, department heads, board members, and everyone else has approved and signed the agreement. And this could be a more formal contract or a memorandum of understanding. It could be both. One thing that you might want to do is organize a signing ceremony where representatives from both your institutions officially sign the agreement. This is going to be good publicity for you. And ensure that all parties involved, including school administrators and relevant department heads, approve and sign the agreement. And then, of course, you want to implement and monitor. So begin implementing the credit transfer program according to the agreed upon terms. You want to start offering the courses outlined in the agreement to high school students. Regularly monitor the progress and outcomes of each credit transfer program, and then gather feedback from students, teachers, and administrators to assess the effectiveness of the program.
Can I add one thing here, Michael?
Sure.
Okay, then this is where I will mention again, finding out if you are a NACEP accredited institution is really important, because that monitoring piece might be mandatory under your accreditation,
Right.
and might have a very specific look to how it has to be done. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that again, in your research, make sure you look into that.
Right. And along those lines, you want to make sure that you have an open line of communication with the schools and your institution to address any issues, provide support, and explore other opportunities for further collaboration. Who doesn't like to collaborate with our peers, right? And as Katie had mentioned, NACEP accreditation. Is your school NACEP accredited? Because they will be able to help you facilitate some of these processes if they are.
Perfect. And then, so some of you have already indicated that you are on board, you've accepted the task and you want to move forward and create your new cybersecurity CTA. So there's 18 schools who have followed up with me already and said, yep, we have bought into this. We are going to develop our CTA. We have a nice mix of 4-year and 2-year schools. I am totally open for more schools to agree to take on this task and develop this cybersecurity credit transfer agreement. So I actually have 2 schools from this list who volunteered to come in today and give us a little share their experience and give us a little update about what their credit transfer agreement process has been like so far. So I have well, I actually have 3 faculty, I believe, total. We have Dr. Luis Vicente from the Polytechnic University in Puerto Rico. And then we have the doctors Kevin Floyd and Kembly Lingelbach, who are from Middle Georgia State University. So these are 2 institutions who have already agreed to develop their new cybersecurity CTA. And I kind of want to turn over the floor to them and let them share what their experience has been so far. Hopefully successes, but I'm sure some challenges. So I'm going to let one of them chime in, whoever wants to go first.
Anyone? Okay, I will start and I break the ice.
Thank
Okay,
you.
this is Luis Vicente, Director and Associate Professor at Polytechnic University of Puerto Rico. And yes, we have been having contact with the high school, and they are excited to do the dual credit thing. And the most challenges is to go there and talk to the teacher and see how they are teaching the cybersecurity modules. And but no, between academics is good. The thing is academics and administration, you know. I'm sorry. Okay, can you see me now? Oh, good.
Perfect. Yeah, we can see you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes. So thank you. So now what we have, the most difficult thing I see is those administrative things. See, okay, you are going to have 1 or 2 credits modules in your high school, and then I have to talk to my administration, to the president, to see, okay, now are we going to agree to give them the dual credit? And we are in those steps. So I think that is the most challenging thing, because getting in contact with the high school, getting in contact with a teacher that teach cybersecurity, that is kind of easy. You know, we are academics, and I say, okay, I have these modules you can teach, or we agree with the way of teaching. That's kind of easy. The worst thing, I mean, the worst, not the more challenging thing is to get the university say, okay, I will accept the dual credits and such, which I think is a win-win situation, but it still is something new, is something nobody did before, and you have to, sometimes you find some kind of walls, or, oh, how do we do that? So I think that's the most challenging part, but we are working on that now. I think we have a halfway done.
Oh, good. Now, is your school a NACEP accredited school? Do you have a dual credit office, or are you doing all of this on your own?
I'm doing that on my own. There is no dual credit office so far. Maybe we'll make one.
Yes.
I mean, we are doing new things. We are
Yeah.
opening new ways.
That's a great update, though, and that's helpful to hear too. That the curriculum development, the faculty and the teacher went very smoothly. Now it's getting the university to agree to accept the credits. That's where you're running into the roadblocks.
Yeah. Yes.
Katie,
And then,
Rachel,
for example,
sound about right?
Yeah, and then, for example, if in those credits, in what course we will give them, you know, because you have to select a course that will credit the credits, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for sharing that, Louise, and we're always rooting for you. I love seeing your updates, so keep sending me your emails.
Yes, definitely. I will send you updates as soon as possible.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Katie, what did you want to chime in?
There you go. Okay. I was just going to say, in response to Louise, you'll see Katie typed in there that, during Q&A, we're happy to discuss ways that we've worked to create buy-in, because we too, at first, you know, there was a lot of pushback but now, so we can discuss at the end Q&A, give you guys maybe some tips on what worked for us, and how we now do have support really among the university now.
Awesome. And then Middle Georgia State University. I thought I saw Kemley pop in earlier.
Yes, you did.
Oh, perfect.
Kim Lingelbach, Dr. Floyd is on here as well, so he can talk more about it. But we're actually working with a high school in Dublin, Georgia, on a dual enrollment cybersecurity certificate, so they can earn a certificate with I believe it's 4 courses before they graduate high school, and then they're able to transfer that into an associate degree or a bachelor's program in information technology here at Middle Georgia State.
Oh, wow. So 4-course certificate. How was that? How was it challenging to get buy-in for that?
Dr. Floyd might be able to talk more about that. They also will be, I'll go ahead and tell you, they also will be able to pursue some certifications such as Security Plus, certified ethical hacker, and so forth. But this will give them a preparation for that, and the high school is looking at paying for those certificate testing. So it kind of helps them have something they could put on their resume as well.
That's outstanding. Those are not always cheap industry certifications either. So the high school's willing to foot the bill. That's amazing.
Mhm.
And then Dr. Floyd, did you want to chime in with anything?
Sure. I'll just add to what Kim mentioned earlier. We actually started the process by identifying 4 of our existing courses, and we packaged those courses into a certificate. So as you mentioned, it's a 12-hour certificate program. All these courses were developed internally by our faculty, and they were approved through our governance process. Once we packaged the courses into the certificate, the next step that we took was to work with our governing body, the University System of Georgia, and the Georgia Department of Education. They have a program what's called Georgia Tracks, and essentially it's a method for institutions of higher education to submit university coursework to the Georgia Department of Education to be considered as dual enrollment courses. So once they're approved, essentially these courses can count as dual enrollment credit and also as university credit courses. We got those courses approved. So now high school students in Georgia, if they take these courses, they can receive high school credit for the courses, and then they can transfer those courses to me, hopefully to us, if they decide to join us after graduating. Or they can transfer them to any University System of Georgia institution that has an IT-related program. The nice thing for the students is that in addition to the high school credit they'll get toward graduation, they'll earn an actual certificate from us, so they'll get the diploma at the end of the program. I think that the toughest part for us was identifying the school, because it can be a lot of work on the part of the high school. We basically just reached out to our neighboring schools, the schools in our service area, and we got a hit with the Career Academy at Dublin City High School, which is about an hour from us, but it's also in our service area. They were interested in talking to us about it. We had a couple of meetings with them, with their principal, their administration, and decided to move forward with it. We're going to be doing the courses on their campus starting in August. So we're going to do 2 first semesters. So we'll do 2 courses in the fall, 2 courses in the spring. So that will be during their junior and senior year. And our faculty will teach courses initially. Hopefully, at some point in the future, we'll be able to get some of their teachers trained. They're going to provide facilities. That's all part of the MOU that's been drafted. We couple of weeks, we'll be getting together for the signing ceremony, and if everything goes well, we're going to start offering these courses in the fall, starting in August.
That is outstanding. It sounds like you're so close to having that finalized MOU.
But we're just hoping nothing comes up, but everything's looking good so far.
That's outstanding. Thank you so much for that update, and for both of you for just sharing where you're at and the process that what you've run into, what were your challenges and your successes. And sometimes that can help encourage other people who might be in the same boat or approaching that next road stop, like they're already anticipating something and hearing that somebody else has gone through it or is going through it at the same time. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time to share where you're at and what your successes have been so far. So thank you. Thank you both schools. Thank you so much. And then something that we can offer to anybody who is taking on the CTA development task through our grant, some of the resources that we have access to. And we met with a lot of different people across a lot of different institutions, and you all are doing some fabulous things. And we just want to share what we've learned and what we've gathered. And one thing that we of course would love to promote is the Ring curriculum. And we have Dr. Christensen here from Moraine Valley, and we actually had met with a member of her team, and they did a really awesome demo of the Ring platform and the My eMates, which were things that we had heard about, but once we actually got to see the platform, we thought, oh, this is fabulous. If faculty could see actually what the platform looked like, I think it would really help to get some excitement and to utilize it. So I'm going to actually turn it over to Dr. Christensen. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that she can share her presentation or do her demo. So Dr. Christensen, are you ready?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We're very proud of our resources that we can assist the high schools with for creating those agreements. But I have a short PowerPoint presentation. I have 8 minutes. I could spend 8 hours. There's so many cool resources to help you develop those agreements. So just one moment. I'm going to share my screen. I'm on a school computer, so you know how those are. I think my video card's integrated. So we'll see how it goes.
There we go.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you so much. We're part of the Education Pathway National Center, and one of our main partners is University of Alabama, Huntsville, which they created the Ring curriculum. And as a partner with UAH, we developed a lot of ancillary resources to complement that curriculum, and we work really well as a team. So I just want to, just to give you an idea of our goal, and then I'll move forward because I know that we have limited time, but one of our primary purposes is to establish that national distribution network of the Ring curriculum. So I really am very excited about the opportunity to share it with you if you haven't heard of it before. We've been going around different states and listening to different stakeholders and trying to identify anything that we can bring to the table and help the agreements and help the teachers with their cybersecurity education. So important. I'll just pass that. I'm not going to represent Ring as well as Jesse Hairston or Tana would, but just to give you an idea, it's free, accessible materials, and I'll go over the different modules very briefly, but they have credit options. There's a student organization, virtual challenges and labs, student management. There's different models on how they offer their curriculum. So but they also provide the curriculum for free as a Canvas course, and I'll show you what that looks like. You can access or request access to these resources by going to the CAE community website here, but I'll also share with you, if I can, oh my goodness, I'm going to test the boundaries of this computer. I know it. I'll add the link to our website later. Oh, wait, actually, I see the chat right here. I'm so sorry. I normally have like 7 screens, so I apologize for that. I just threw our website in to the chat, but I'll show you where you can find it. But if you look at the Ring curriculum, there's an introduction of what the introduction to the Ring and cybersecurity careers. Then they start their curriculum with ethics. and then establishing trust. They talk about the CIA triad or CAI triad, and then different sections that students are relevant to the cybersecurity curriculum. They're very well done, and you can get free access to it. You'll see also educators can get the full curriculum package. They have all the labs, all the lesson plans. So what it does is it removes a barrier of all that work of having to get all your lessons plans done. They have beautiful graphic organizers to help students, vocabulary lists. The materials are outstanding. There's Kahoots to get them engaged, the students engaged. And I will not take, that's the UAH team. They have been wonderful to work with, and they're so considerate of ensuring that the materials are accessible and also, compliant with accessibility in mind, which is, again, very important. But you'll see on the right-hand side here, this is what the Canvas course looks like. It all maps to a G Drive, like a Google documents, and they also have instructor materials. I shall say, before we've offered faculty development on how to use the Ring curriculum in the summer, and I believe that we plan on doing so again this summer. So I'm going to encourage you all to come to our website or visit our website so that you can take advantage of those. One thing that our team as EPNC has done is create the Ring curriculum, Ring resources to complement that curriculum. So if you haven't heard of eMates, has anyone heard of eMates? Okay, they're excellent resources. They're all interactive, and what they do is identify topics that are pain points to teach, so students can go through them all multiple times. IP addressing via variable length, subnet masking, those types of things. They're kind of difficult to do on the board. It makes it that much easier to do in person. I'll show you what those look like. We have a virtual lab environment. So if your IT department cringes, they're like, oh, not on our network. This is beautiful because it's all on the cloud. So we don't touch your network. So they're like, oh, okay, that's not a roadblock, right? So we're trying to remove barriers to the to getting these resources into your classrooms. We have cryptography exercises and activities, and those are also in the virtual lab. So you don't necessarily have to install software, but you can on your software. Students really love the Stego. They like to hide little messages and images a lot, but it gets them into it. We have Packet Tracer. So if you haven't used Packet Tracer for network development or simulations, we have a whole stock of labs that you can use. They're also auto-graded, which is really nice. And then we have a 2D and 3D experience, VR experience. But just to go through this, and I have all the resources here. And again, I'm going to see if I can test the limits. And this is, sorry guys, I think my computer's crying because it's stressing. But you can see here they have different cybersecurity topics like encryption and data formatting. They have ciphers, factoring and prime numbers for asymmetrical encryption. Let's see if I can get to it, and I'll just pull this up. This is our website, and just so you can see it, this is our center under resources. I'm just going to click on eMates. I also have the virtual reality career exploration and a link. But here are the eMates. So they have challenges, they have games, matching games for students. So they're learning and having fun at the same time, which is sometimes difficult to do on these challenging topics. So you'll see they go, there's some audio, but it talks about the different, how to generate keys. So they see it. I think there's real value in these types of interactive activities. So students walk through it, but we have a whole category. So you can see we have cybersecurity. We have a program, if you're talking about buffer overflow and the importance of secure coding, you can talk about that to students. There's ethics challenges, firewalls. They talk about Stuxnet and Heartbleed bug. So if you want them to, test the most, thanks. I'm so glad you like them, Mario. That's awesome. The students really get into it. And then there's cryptography, all sorts of different things. So if you're trying to explain hashing, it's done in a fun way that makes things fun and entertaining for your students, but they're learning Diffie-Hellman key exchanges. There's CMMC, that might not be good. That's a little more advanced maybe. But there's programming, basic programming and artificial intelligence, math. So if your students need math, oh, it's wonderful. And then electronics. So I even told my like I teach electronics, and the multimeter explains so they don't mess with your fluke, and they mess it up. So then they get the primer on it, and then they feel more comfortable using it. But there's, and I know that's outside of cyber, but just shows you the vast nature. And one thing that I do want to drive home is that if there's a need and you see that there's a need, we want you to reach out to us so that we can address that need and procure what you need so that you're successful as faculty. It's very important to us. We do also have a range access and support. So we have a whole list of labs that complement the Ring curriculum. They learn about it, and then they have hands-on, which is really important. So we have we test case this with over 140 students in the summer. So regardless of what platform they're using, they even use Raspberry Pis to get on. And that's pretty cool. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to access the labs. So again, the network, your school network administrators are probably very happy about this. So it's not on their network, it's on a virtual environment. We also have competency labs. So we have 13 detailed labs that we walk students through, but then we say, okay, now what have you learned? And like test what you've learned so that we can see what they're doing. And we will provide access to all of these. And let's see. Oh, here's the Ring range. So you'll see the different labs. I know it's pretty small, but you can access a free 60-day trial to see how you like it. And they align with not only the Ring Cybersecurity Exploration Labs, but we have a series of cryptography exercises. So we use a tool called Crypt Tool that you can download on your own machines. It's for PC and Mac. But we go through with the classical cryptography, the modern, the different encryptions, hashing. They really like this Dago. They love it. And then once they get engaged, and you're like, let's take it a little step further. But you're all educators, so I know how. Like I just get excited. We also have packet tracer labs, and they recently had a major overhaul with packet tracer from Cisco. That's from Skills for All. And we've started using it for IoT applications too, and trying to figure out like showcase ways in which you can set up your network and look at different ways you can set that up. But we also have a series of network labs that we can make freely accessible as well. And then I know my time is limited. We do have a VR career exploration tool that we'd be more than happy to share with you. Students get immersed into this environment, and then they can ask these avatars why did they get into the field? What kind of certificates do they need? What's their educational background? And the nice thing about this, and no pun intended, is it aligns with a nice cybersecurity framework. So you'll see the different categories, like is it operate and defend, securely provision, analyze. So you'll see up on the left, on the top over here, it kind of starts, it starts to develop a lexicon with the students so that they see, okay, here's how the jobs are added or organized. One thing that might be helpful to the school, maybe for your counselors and advisors, is over the winter, we created a counselor advisor toolkit and book. We have a 46-page book, but it goes over what are cybersecurity careers, because a lot of times they don't realize the breadth and diversity that the careers have. So we wanted to educate the counselors so that they can create pathways for our students, and even share this with the students and their parents. You know, sometimes the parents are like, what is cyber? They think it's some guy in a van outside with a hoodie on outside your house. You know, we want to kind of dispel that stereotype, but like, why should you consider a career? What are the academic credentials that you need? What are certificates? What we talk about the different extracurriculars, which are so important. So get them into CTA and get them into, you know, that'd be one way to pay for school, like just so that they start developing, you know, that's something that they know about. How do we contact? Oh, you can always email me, and I can always send you. I'm going to throw my email in chat. And so this is, oh, we also created this one-page worksheet that you can give parents and counselors so that if a student expresses interest in cybersecurity, you can give them this worksheet. It talks about what a CAE is. And a lot of times it's important that you know what a CAE is and you want to go to a CAE school. What's CyberSec? It tells them that the landscape of the career field. And I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I could talk all day, as you probably can imagine, and I won't for your sakes. But it really, we have a lot of resources. I can't stress enough, if there's something to help ease the burden or remove a barrier to the implementation of this curriculum, we want to know so that we can procure it or develop it for you. So, and we've been to a number of states, and we've really done that. So we've gotten feedback from people, and we made sure that we addressed that feedback, and we made some of these artifacts because of that. But let me stop my share. And I threw in my, oh, great. Oh, thanks. I want to make sure that we are very accommodating. We want to make sure that you have what you need. If you email me, if I don't know the answer, I know someone who will, so I'll make sure it gets addressed. So, and Amber, thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate being able to share this with the group.
Yeah, we really enjoyed the presentation previously, and we thought this would be great for everybody to be able to see. So thank you for sharing that, and everybody reach out to Dr. Christensen if you've got any questions about any of the resources, any of the curriculum. Please reach out. It's the great tools that we got going on.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, the other thing that comes up from time to time is teacher credentialing. And like I've talked about, and Katie and Rachel, I know you guys do some of that stuff too with teacher credentialing. And what are some things that we kind of have to keep in mind when we're thinking about our teacher credentialing? What are some major red flags that we need to be aware of?
So this is another one of those areas that is so state and institution specific that it's really going to help if you do your homework on what your requirements are. Depending on what your overarching accrediting body requires, there might be specific things that teacher has to have completed. So for example, if you're an HLC school, the HLC has said, here's what a teacher who teaches dual credit must have in order to teach. In many states, cybersecurity is considered a career and technical education course. I know it is in Indiana, which means that they can have experience in the field or a master's degree or graduate credit. It's a little bit more flexible if it's a CTE course. However, if it's not a CTE course, it may require that they have a master's degree in cybersecurity. So this is where doing that little bit of digging to see what your state requires, what your accrediting body requires. Generally, at a minimum, it would be the requirement for them to teach it as dual credit is whatever they would need to teach it at your institution. So if, that's usually a pretty safe guideline because you would want them to be able to teach it at your institution. But again, your specific requirements may be different depending on all of those variables, which is what makes it so tricky to navigate. And again, definitely if you have folks on your campus who are doing this work, lean heavily on them for that because they can give you those specifics as well.
So if that's one of the roadblocks that you run into while you're developing your credit transfer agreement in cybersecurity, we do have some resources. We have talked to some different schools. There's some different programs out there. Indiana University does have a dual credit pipeline, and they are going to be rolling out an online master's degree this fall that is geared towards teachers in cybersecurity. So we're hoping to invite them back this fall once it comes live, and they can give us a nice update about that. But we've heard from a number of different schools some of the things and the resources that they're doing and that they're willing to share on. So if you run into teacher credentialing issues, please reach out to me and we can try and connect you with those appropriate resources. And something else that we touched a little bit on was if you needed to have lab hosting, PNW does have an NDG lab, so we can definitely provide that kind of support if that's something that is going to be needed. And we also have a number of pre-developed labs in addition to all the Ring resources that Dr. Christensen shared with us. PNW also has a website full of K12 lab resources as well. So if you're willing to reach out and work with us, these are some of the things that we can definitely help you with. And that kind of brings us to the end of our presentation, which is our lovely Q&A time. So we know that you have questions. So here's your chance if you want to throw it in chat or come off of mute and ask us your questions. Pick Katie and Rachel's brains while we're here. Pick Dr. Christensen's brain while she's here. Any of us, or if anybody has any questions, well, we're going to open up the floor to you. And I think one thing, I know, Katie, you threw the link for NASEP. So one thing that they can look up is to check if they're a NASEP school.
And that's a great starting point, again, as you're doing this work. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but a lot of this has probably already been done for you if you are an ASAP school. Those agreements have already been taken care of. Those documents are already created. Another great spot to start if you're not a NASAP accredited school is if you have an education program, because those programs require school partnerships for placements like student teaching, in which case there might already be a list of contacts that your institution already works with. So if you're not an ASAP institution, I look at Rachel because she also does do all of her education placements for PNW, but most places aren't going to be like that. We just like to do extra stuff, apparently. Make sure if you're not an ASAP institution, look to see, because again, our School of Education and Counseling has their own MOA that they use with schools. So a lot of that documentation may already have been taken care of for you.
Perfect. And Deborah, would you like to go ahead? Go and ask
Good
your
afternoon,
question.
everyone. This was absolutely great. Our college is a NASEP school. I'm Tidewater Community College, and we do have dual enrollment in place. We do work with the high schools as far as the students being able to transfer their credits to us. And then leaving here with a TCC certificate and/or degree, they go on to a university. My question for you is, I have never, I guess you could say, connected it other than providing data to the Center of Academic Excellence. How do I go about, and I guess you could say, bringing it all together?
Yeah, so we are collecting the dual credit agreements right now. We're hoping to have a whole Center for Academic Excellence database
Oh, okay.
of CTAs. So my colleague Mike is actually working on that task, and I can have him throw a link to that Qualtrics survey. We're just asking schools to load, if you've got documents or websites, like please share them with us. And our hope is to have a full-on database that would help institutions and help schools, make the best choices that they can with their CTAs. So please, yes, please share. Mike, I'm going to ask if you can throw that survey link into chat for Miss Deborah.
Yep, just be a second.
Thank you all.
Any other questions? That was great. Katie, Rachel, I've listened to the presentation. I'm on board. I'm going to email myself and tell myself that I want to start developing a CTA. Once I get that worksheet, what should my first step be? Like what I'm on board. What should I do first? What would you recommend?
From my perspective, and that's not, again, like a broken record, but figure out who at your institution is already doing some of this work. So it could be an Office of Concurrent Enrollment, like what we have here. Even if you're not an ASAP institution, you might still be offering dual credit. So figure out who already is doing this work or who already has those existing partnerships. As I mentioned, if you have an education program, elementary or secondary, they have contacts in the schools. So to me, figure out if there's already some of this work that's done for you will make your jobs a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do I know if I should be offering dual credit or dual enrollment? Like how do I decide that?
So this is a tricky distinction, but I'm glad that you asked. So there is a difference between dual enrollment and dual credit. It's called different things in every state, even in Indiana. At every institution, it's called something different, and it's called something different in the legislature as well. But there's essentially the dual credit that's offered in the high schools, which we can consider concurrent enrollment. So it's offered in the high school by a qualified high school instructor. But then there's also dual credit, which is the overarching umbrella where they could also be coming to campus to take that credit. And I think that's going to be a conversation between your partners to figure out, okay, is this something that can be feasibly offered in the high school because they have somebody accredited, credentialed to teach it, who can teach it for you, and they have the resources or whatever the case may be. If none of your partners have that, it might be a conversation of then how could we maybe bring the students to campus for this class? And what resources exist to help cover tuition costs if they are, can your institution charge the concurrent enrollment, or does your state allow for free high school and college? I know there are some states that have legislative, guidance that says that it can be free for students. All of those pieces are going to lead into your decision. And again, that just requires some of that research as to what your state's policies are surrounding tuition on campus versus in high schools.
Perfect. Okay. It's a little bit of legwork.
Yeah, that's kind of, to me, the hardest part. Quite frankly, I think the curriculum pieces, your curriculums, that's not hard. It's all this other research that goes on to get to that point, right? It's like putting painter's tape around everything before you can start painting. It just takes time. But once you get there, you're ready to go.
Sure. Good analogy. And then Autumn, what question do you have?
Hi, do you guys have any examples of schools that were able to offer I guess it would be called dual credit based on what your definition of the two were, but where it's like a live feed that feeds into a high school or anything similar? I've heard of that before, but I didn't know how it works and how it was created.
So I might open this up actually to other participants if their institutions do it. We haven't ever done, at least personally, where it's live offered, on campus, but the students come in. But we do have a lot of students in our surrounding schools who do come to campus for classes. It's part of a larger partnership that we've worked out with those schools. But essentially, the schools would say, here's the time we can bring our students to campus, Monday and Wednesday from 12:30 to 1:45. And so when that's been the case, they've said, we want this course. We go to the department and we say, can this course be offered? And we get it set up so those students physically come to campus for that class. They sit in with a P&W instructor and they earn college credit that way. Those are really school by school basis. Some of our schools do just cover the tuition costs for their students. That obviously is helpful if you have especially some of our private schools who do that. They have that kind of funding to do it. Some schools, depending on their funding, we have some schools where the entire school population is considered free and reduced lunch. So we're able to kind of work on some tuition breaks for them that way. Those things get into then speaking with your, kind of registrar and your leadership to see what that looks like as well.
Well, the state of Georgia pays for dual enrollment. So
they do.
We're lucky here. But I guess my question is, so you're saying that the bus, like the school bus drivers, whatever students are enrolled for the dual enrollment, they would actually transport the kids back and forth to your
kids?
And
we have our schools do it differently as well. So for two of our schools, they say we have to have the courses at these times because this is when we can bring them to and from. Another one of our schools, they get done at 1:30 in the afternoon for seniors, and they say the seniors, if they want to take a class, they'll come to you. They can do a 2:00 class, and the students get themselves here. We do check them in because the school wants to make sure they're getting here, but each school has approached it differently, just depending on their student body and what works best for them. But I will say, really, even schools that we would not have anticipated wanting to do this, we had one out of nowhere, like December 23rd, was like, we want to bring our students to campus in the spring. And we had a real tight turnaround, but we worked with them to do our, kind of a rapid admissions process, got them admitted, help them identify which courses work for their schedule, did an orientation, got them registered all before January 8th. So it's doable. But if you're planning it for the fall, you've got a little more time right now.
For sure. Terry, I saw your hand up first. Terry, how are you doing?
You can use the bike taxi. Yeah. As a truck.
Having trouble unmuting.
Don't
I'm
worry.
doing well. I was going to say we do I'm at the University of Idaho, out in Idaho, and we have dual credit courses that we will Zoom so that students can take remotely, mostly because we're a fairly rural state. So we have done some that way.
You've done some Zoom. And then
so
Terry,
how did you guys align your scheduling to the high school scheduling, or did you just create a specific section that would align with their schedule so that you could do the Zoom? That's the main, logistical challenge I would see.
Gotcha. And really, we didn't work very closely with the high schools on that. So we set it up for what our schedule was on campus. And then we've had some students who either had a free period then or otherwise could work it into their schedule. The other thing we can do, although we're very hesitant to, is just record each Zoom session. And then the students can watch it sort of in the evenings on their own time. That never works as well for the students. They still are on the same schedule in terms of assignments and exams and so forth, but it gives a little more flexibility.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And then Terry, you also, with being a rural school, you have like a little, or your schools that you serve are more rural, I should say.
Yes.
And we had talked about teacher credentialing, and what were some of the ways that your school has addressed the teacher credentialing?
Oh, so we do it as a week-long workshop over the summer. So, and those we also sometimes do Zoom, although in the past I've tended to travel around the states to more central locations. And they'll come in, they get professional development credit as well as becoming certified to teach those specific courses. And there's a longer process. We have to do site visits and keep an eye on their syllabus and all of that to make sure it's exactly the same course. So we do both. We train the teachers to be able to offer the course, but we'll also make our version from campus available remotely.
Perfect. Just some ideas to throw out there for anybody needing to credential. So thank you, Terry, for sharing that.
Of course.
And then Professor Faisal, if you have a question. Oh, maybe you're muted. All right, I'll give him a minute. Let me think if there's any other questions. Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry. I had problem on muting. Well, Amber, thank you for having somebody getting back to me. I was confused with the time to begin with. We are the Eastern Zone. Yeah. I'm from Hudson County Community College in the Eastern Side, and I see Dr. Tanzan here. He handles part of those agreements for us, and he's a great help for us as well. My question to you is, I am working on an SFA grant, and we're trying to work on part of that, getting high school students, especially women, into our program. And we're looking to get also dual agreement with high schools as well. My concern is, when we make those agreements, how can we guarantee that other colleges and universities will accept those agreements that we make at a community level, community college level?
Yeah, that is a great question. I don't know if Katie, Rachel, any input?
So yeah, there is an agreement. And actually, did we see that there was someone from Ivy Tech here?
Someone from Ivy Tech. I'm like, I know there's an Ivy Tech agreement with that we have with our community college in Indiana.
I think that was Ben.
It was. Is he still here?
I'm here from Ivy Tech.
Oh. Are you?
Ben Morrow could speak of it because he's up in your area. I'm down in Lafayette.
Okay. There is a yeah, there's just a transfer agreement.
So Ivy Tech statewide system for community colleges, which is completely different than everywhere else. That's why I'm aware of Ben Morrow, my colleague up north, and I'm down south of him. So that it's very confusing. I'm actually on a meeting right now for a book meeting across the state with people. So that's why I was jumping back and forth. Sorry. Ivy Tech system, we credential the high school teachers as one of our teachers. So they're an adjunct teacher. And then we are accredited from, I'm forgetting the accrediting body, but we follow some of the best practices that have already been mentioned, where they do our syllabus, they use our syllabus, we distribute books to them, and then we give them assignments and rubrics, we give them access to our materials. And so they pretty much are teaching our courses just like a adjunct teacher. And in that realm, it shows up on the students' transcripts. So if they're taking a software development 120 course, they are covering the same objectives and they're accomplishing virtually the same material as our native students are in the high school, just over maybe 32 weeks instead of 16 weeks. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely always a concern, is getting institutions across the board to accept these credits, so that the students aren't redoing a course that they've clearly passed and they have the curriculum understanding. And so that's always a concern. And hopefully with having like a lovely CAE credit transfer database, like we could help to eliminate that at least amongst us CAE schools. That's our ultimate goal, right? One of our goals, I should say.
One model that I had learned about at a conference years ago, and this is something that I think we're all slowly working towards, right? But wherever, I can't remember what the schools were, but the community college and the 4-year and the high schools worked as a full-on like kind of triangular partnership. And so they took X courses at the community college, they took X courses from the 4-year, they knew of it. And when they graduated, they had finished their associates at the community college, went straight to the 4-year, and they also did not have duplicate credits. They went straight into their majors. So it was a very fine-tuned, beautiful system they'd set up. I think they had worked many years to get to that point, because that's a really hard one to get off the ground. But yeah, thinking of all those pieces to make sure there's not duplicate courses and that students can, they're not wasting their time is very important.
Yeah. Sylvia, hello. Hi. What is your question?
I actually have a comment. This is Sylvia from Montgomery College. Based on what I was hearing, something that we already do, we have several CTAs, and we have high schoolers coming on campus, which is a set schedule that we coordinated with the high schools. And we also have instructors from the college that go and teach at the high schools. So that's another way that we do things. And that's based on the requirements of the agreement. In some cases, we teach other programs other than cybersecurity. And in other cases, we have the foundational network security course, where we go and teach that at the at the high school. And another aspect of how we do transferring, just because of the question that I heard about, are the CTAs going to be accepted in the 2- and 4-year institutions? Something that we do is, and it would be nice to have something more automated, but so we have a CTA from high school to the 2-year, and then we have transfer agreements from 2 to 4. And in some cases, we have the situation where at this 4-year institution, they have a 2+2. So once they transfer to finish their 4-year, the institution already embrace the fact that they're going to be doing their 2 years at a master's program. So I guess the point here on this example is collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very valid point. Any other questions or comments? We're coming to our last 6 minutes here. So before we wrap up today, going once. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Our goal was that we hope that you at least learned something new, got excited about developing a CTA, found a resource that you were completely unaware of, or got some questions answered that you had. So we hope that you found this workshop beneficial and that you at least got something out of it. Oh, we got a hand raise.
It's
Katie?
me again. So I know I mentioned this in chat earlier, and we are out of time, so I don't want to take more of it today. But if you start getting kind of down the development process and you are getting pushback from faculty or administration as to why this work is valuable, feel free to reach out to Rachel and I, and we are very happy to share some of the things that we have learned along the way to create that buy-in at your institution, because it was kind of a long, hard road for a little bit.
We've heard it all about why, about what people think about concurrent enrollment, but now we can tell you what we've learned and how we've gotten that buy-in.
So, so yeah, feel free to reach out. Again, we don't need to take more of your time today because you might not know what that exact pushback is yet, but feel free to reach out anytime and we are happy to help out.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you to the team for presenting today. And again, thank you all for taking time out of your day and joining us. We really hope that you got something valuable out of this workshop. So I'm going to stop recording and